I've always worked with cars, and I worked for a small kind of R&D company. We used to do convertibles and all sorts of odd things, body kits in the 80s, when body kits became a thing. And I knew Henry because, you know, we were car guys, and we were based fairly close anyway. And then in 1988, we both ended up doing the Pirelli Classic Marathon.
I was lucky enough to win it with Gordon Cruikshank as my co-driver in '89, and just after that Paul then joined Eagle, and so that brought his engineering expertise and things as well.
Eagle was already working on all sorts of classic cars before I joined, E-Types included, but shortly after I joined Henry we did start specialising and focusing on E-Types, and not very long after we became dedicated Jaguar E-Type specialists. I think specialising works well. It's not a bad little formula, and if you're going to pick a classic car, I mean, we're classic car guys through and through, if you're going to pick a classic car that does it all, seriously, the reason we specialise in E-Types is because they are very, very good starting points, you know, and you can get in a bog standard E-Type, assuming it's a decent one, and go wherever you want and do whatever you want. It's reliable, it's got room, it's rugged, it's a hardy car, and it's great to drive. And they respond incredibly well to some sympathetic tweaks, which is what we've become more known for now. Jaguar E-Type, we all know the story when it came out. It was an absolute visual sensation. It was actually worked as well, so it did the business as well as looking the business. But it was just an awesome car. Everybody remembers it. I mean, even kids today, even young kids, the 10-year-old kids, for some reason they seem to know what a Jaguar E-Type is, which is staggering. So it's a legend.
You know, this was a car that was 3 times faster, but it was half the price of an Aston Martin, a third of the price of the 4-seater Ferrari. You know, it was just an incredible car, and I don't think there'll be anything that comes out that will be so dynamically different again, because it was such a generation ahead of everything else. So if you go back to 1950 or something and look at all the cars that are really pre-war evolutions, you know, still on the road with separate chassis and beam axles and some of them with not quite cable brakes, but not far off that. You know, this was absolutely probably 2 generations ahead of anything else at the time.
By amazing coincidence, my pedal car, I was going to say my first pedal car, my one and only pedal car, was a Triang Jaguar E-Type. Yeah, metallic blue. I can remember it now, and I'd love to be able to find it. And I think anybody who's got even a passing interest in cars, you know, knows all about the Jaguar E-Type. Well, Eagle E-Type #1 is an interesting story. That guy came to us shortly after, relatively speaking, shortly after we began to focus on E-Types, and what he wanted became what an Eagle E-Type was. He wanted, he had a restored E-Type. It wasn't restored to the standards that he particularly wanted. At that time, it was the early 90s, and restoration standards were all over the shop. There wasn't, you know, there was a lot of bad restorations, unlike today where there's a lot of good restorations.
And he sort of said, couldn't you actually make an E-Type that works and restore it so everything is like brand new, or back to 0 hours or 0 miles, and literally don't leave any stone unturned? And we said, well, we could do, but it'd probably 3 or 4 times longer than a conventional restoration. Because in those days, a restoration was a repaint, a trim kit that didn't actually fit that well, and a few re-chromed items. So it wasn't take a car right down to its core components and then look every single item. So.
And what he asked us to build him was exactly what an Eagle E-Type is. It was something reliable, usable, had longevity. It was going to, you know, it wasn't going to fall apart if he used it in the winter. We
looked to take an E-Type to being like a brand new car again. We guessed the first car would take about 2,000 hours, and we did a fixed price restoration. So the Eagle story, there were 3 things. There was John, who said, let's do it. So he was behind us and said, let's make, you know, the ultimate E-Type restoration at the time and set a new standard. That combined with us moving to new premises in Sussex, which is where we've been ever since. And at that point, we then stopped taking in E-Types for work other than cars we've supplied, and we stopped doing any work other than our complete 0-hour restoration.
A standard E-Type is actually still a nice car to drive even today, But to be honest, standards have moved on, our expectations have moved on. You know, they're 60-year-old cars, so you know, we can improve. The gearing feels a touch low, for example, on some of the axle ratios. So a 5-speed gearbox with a taller fifth gear makes a big difference. The brakes, they were good. They were disc brakes back in the 61, which was fantastic, and they're good, but they can be improved because our standards have moved on so more. And you know, a Ford Focus, if that stops quickly in front of you, it's going to stop quickly because it's modern and it's got ABS and everything else. So you can improve the brakes, all those little bits and pieces, we can upgrade those out very, very easily. That's kind of the most fundamental things that we do, are those little issues. The cooling fans on the early cars were very, very lacking. It wasn't even a particularly great design, and in practice it was even worse because they did tend to fail. And it's an obvious improvement just to put a better, more modern cooling fan.
Simply, if we Eagle 36, we've got available at the moment, which is original 3.8 Roadster, keeping its original engine. But if you put that next to an original car, and in fact we've got super original low mileage cars still with their original paint as well that we keep in our inventory, so you can do that direct comparison. And to be honest, it's the bit between the number plates that's different. So it's if you look at the body panels, actually fit surprisingly well. People say E-Type panels didn't fit when they were new, and they are actually really good, but all the tooling was new, you know. So today, you know, you've got different areas you can spend time on, but it's just everywhere. So I think one of the big differences is everything that you can't see, and I think that's the biggest difference. So when you look at the inside of a body shell that we've just painted on an Eagle, the paint finish is the same as the car behind me, so, and that gives longevity. So same with the engine bay, everything we do for longevity. So we're not interested in custom cars and chroming things, but we use stainless steel where there's strip shields, for example, that the paint gets chipped off with stone chips. So we look for solutions that the car will look fantastic. And in fact, Eagle number 1 is still with its original owner and looking like a 2-year-old restoration. So that's the difference, really. It's building in a lot of restorations. If you look at histories of cars coming up in auction, for example, you see that the car was restored 10 years before it was restored, 10 years before that it was restored. And that's the difference, you know, to restore something once properly, but just go to a level with no compromise.
But fundamentally, you know, the Jaguar engineers did everything for a reason, and a few times we've been tripped up where we thought we can outsmart them and do something a little bit better than they did, and then we realised exactly why they did what they did, and we've reverted back to it. But occasionally there are things where we're trying to make the cars, we're making the cars quicker and stop safer. When you do all those things, you do start re-engineering some things. So we'll exploit modern processes like 3D printing, and we'll machine things in aluminium that were perhaps made in steel before, because it's, you know, if we're going to remake that part anyway, for whatever reason, let's make it lighter and let's make it better. Let's, you know, us and our customers appreciate that there is a big value in saving weight, and we can take hundreds of kilograms off these cars, and that makes everything better. Every dynamic is better.
I think being allowed to have the time to work with the customer, to spend that time finding out what it is that they're looking for on the car, and then I can go away, do different spray outs for them, come back, make any minor tweaks on it so that we can really get the colour exactly right. We had one customer who had a sapphire diamond ring and she wanted her car to match to it, so I spent time with her doing that, and it was really nice at the end for her to be really pleased with the effect that we achieved for her.
It's somewhere that takes pride in everything that they do, and that's the kind of thing that I like as well. It's nice to be working somewhere where you can actually afford to take your time to do something right and something good, and to be able to produce something that is perfection.
Every Eagle E-Type has been different. They've all been specified differently. Each owner has a different set of requirements, and a major important task, a part of the process, is to actually identify exactly what the customer wants. We have had guys come here and have just wanted to tick every single box. And it's like, well, let's actually determine what you want, because, you know, and then we do, and it turns out that ticking every single box isn't the answer. You know, that's not their ideal car. So we determine exactly what each individual wants, and then it's tailored to them. So they're all completely different. I mean, car one, actually now we still service that car. The guy that commissioned car one became a very good friend and ambassador for the company, and he still is today. He's actually our chairman. He's been an amazing help, and has, you know, helped us along the way. And that car still stands up very, very well today. It still looks super smart. When you think about it, that car is now older since we restored it than it was when we restored it. You know, it was a ruin when we started it, and today it's still a very, very presentable car.
Everything about it is very methodical. Nothing's rushed. The customer is involved if there's any plating that should be done or they want to do, and we tailor it to suit their needs, their desires, their expectations. Ultimately, if they want certain things doing, then we'll do it, and if they don't, then we'll leave it, basically. But it's a case of it being right and it having to be right, because if it's not right, then it's not what we do.
When you get in an Eagle, what we're giving is confidence and safety and peace of mind. So if we go down a test route at quite a quick pace in a standard car, Paul refers to it as a white knuckle ride. So, you know, if you lift it off quickly because a tractor pulled out from a side entrance or something where we are in the country, you know, you are going to have an arm floor opposite lock and no braking and wish yourself good luck. Whereas with the Eagle, you just dab the brakes, change direction, lift the throttle, and it's like a modern car in response. But what we've kept is that it's absolutely still like a car that talks to you completely. So, you know, the steering's communicative, the brakes just work properly. You know, the way we dynamically improve the suspension, it's still all the original E-Type suspension. So all we've done is just a little bit of fine tuning, and that's why it was so far ahead of anything else of its time, that it's given us this great platform. And also, we've never thought, oh, an E-Type's a good car as a business model. You know, we love E-Types because we love E-Types.
The best and most memorable and fun, notable project was undoubtedly the Speedster, which came about from the request of an American customer who had ordered one of our Eagle E-Type Roadsters, and we've always had a waiting list, and at this time it may have been 2 or 3 years, I can't remember, but he became a little impatient and started, you know, saying, well, okay, I'm waiting this long, I want something really special. And we're kind of, well, an Eagle E-Type is really special, you know, what do you mean? And then he said, well, can't we do something extra special, extra special? And it kind of got all our cogs whirring, and we thought, well, this could be a really fun and fantastic project. And so, you know, he didn't really know what he wanted, he just wanted something special. And that's when the Speedster concept came about, which was just some kind of rough sketches of, I'm not particularly, I can't, you know, I wouldn't like to say I can draw, or, you know, I can't do proper drawings or whatever, so it was the best I could do at kind of an interpretation of, well, how about we do this stripped back E-Type, pare it down as per, let's say, the Porsche Speedster, which is a low cut down windscreen, exaggerate some of the features which are particularly attractive, maybe delete some of the ones that may be only there for practicalities or because they have to be for whatever reason. And the Speedster came about from that. He loved the idea from the first few sketches, and we loved doing the project, and it turned out to be really good, and people liked it, which was brilliant. I mean, there was a period of time where the customer decided, yeah, this is great, I want to do this, and we thought that too. And I had this kind of moment of, God, imagine this is going to be quite a lot of money to do this and a lot of time and effort. Imagine if it looks really rubbish, just doesn't look right. So I actually came in over the Christmas week. We shut down for a week over Christmas, and I came in and got one of the donor cars in, one of the existing E-Types that we start with, and kind of did this mock-up, a really rough mock-up with it. So ground out the wheel arches and cut the A-post down, and we still got got it now, and kind of made this rough mock-up with foam and filler and everything else, and it looked all right. It looked okay. So we pressed on. I felt slightly more relaxed then, that I wasn't going to be kind of responsible for an absolute expensive disaster. We've put our heart and soul into it, and we're conscientious, and we're on a mission to do it. We've got a lot of energy. We always have had a lot of energy. I mean, nobody's got as much energy as Henry, and we just keep pushing and pushing, and we put everything into it. I think we're lucky that both Henry and I have got a lot of energy, and this desire to strive for as close to perfection as you can, and it works really, really well. Plus, of course, we've just got the most incredible team, guys. I mean, we've got the best team we've ever had at the moment. And some really, really good people, because obviously it doesn't matter how much energy you got, if you haven't got a good team, you're not going to be able to produce the cars.
So there's always things we're looking at, so we're never, you can't rest on your laurels, if you like, really, but we're always looking if there's an improvement somewhere. Let's see what we can do. But we're getting a long way down the road of getting them sorted, but it's taken it's a long time of focus and dedication, that's for sure.
We're just going to keep doing what we do, keep improving and trying to get better and better, which is what we've always done. So we're still doing Eagle E-Types, just like Eagle E-Type #1. There may be some new evolutions that have come along the way, some new modifications and improvements. They will all retrospectively apply to those early cars. So if there's anything, Eagle E-Type #1, if there's anything that owner, John McLaren, that if he wanted to apply any of the later upgrades, Olin suspension, for example, then it's easy to do that. It's not like, do you remember the Mitsubishi Evos, and each year it would change to Evo 2, 3, 4, and you had last year's model and there's nothing you could do about that. It's not like that with E-Types. So we're just going to keep doing that. There's always a new exciting project in the pipeline, and we are talking to a customer at the moment about the next exciting variation. We supply the best E-Types that you're going to find. That's what we make sure we do. Our reason for being is to produce the very best E-Types that people are going to find anywhere.